The stench of trash melds into the sweltering heat of high noon, where mountains of rotting waste loom large, slowly gnawing away at Anna's youth. This girl, with hands scarred by countless dry, jagged scratches, trudges on, sifting through the world's discarded remains in search of a flicker of fragile hope. Every breath she takes is heavy, as if the very air is trying to suffocate the will of such a tiny soul. Yet Anna's eyes, though smeared with mud and grime, hold a strange luminous spark, like a wild flower struggling to rise above the mire to find the sun. Her life is a somber melody, but one devoid of despair. Suddenly, the silence of the junkyard is shattered by the smooth hum of an engine, a sound so out of place and luxurious it feels impossible. A fleet of opulent cars slowly rolls in, led by a wheelchair forged from solid gold, shimmering under the blistering sun like a god descending into the underworld. Upon it sits Mr. K, silent and still, his face cold and cryptic, like a stone statue carved without emotion. His arrival brings more than just peak affluence. It carries a chilling aura of destiny. The crowd begins to whisper, their eyes wide with shock as greed starts to stir within them. But Anna, she just stands there, quietly gazing at the disabled man with a gaze of sincere empathy, a look completely untainted by self-interest. In that moment, as their eyes lock amidst the stench of decay, an invisible yet merciless bond begins to tighten, marking the start of a life chapter filled with storms and horrific secrets waiting to be unearthed. The chariot of fate has come to a halt in the darkest of depths, seeking the purest of hearts. Can a wild flower in the mud withstand the power of an ancient curse, or will she be swallowed whole by the blood-soaked brilliance of the Kohinoor diamond? I am truly curious to know which corner of the globe you are listening to this story from. So please leave a comment telling me where you are. If your heart is moved by Anna's resilience, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next dramatic chapter. Your support is the greatest motivation for us to keep telling stories of compassion and justice. And now, brace yourselves, for the true secrets are only just beginning to surface. Under the blistering glare of the Southern American sun, the air suddenly thickens as the velvet box in the assistant's hand slips from his grasp. A sharp, hollow thud echoes, and then the Kohinoor diamond tumbles out, skittering across the grime-streaked earth before the stunned eyes of every witness. Its light is brilliantly cruel, reflecting a suffocating contrast between a priceless treasure and the shattered lives inhabiting this suburban wasteland. In an instant, the most primal human instincts ignite. The crowd of well-dressed hangers-on, the guards, and the prying onlookers transform into ravenous predators, their eyes burning with the fires of insatiable greed. They collide, shoving and trampling one another, just to lay a finger on the fortune that could rewrite a person's destiny, completely ignoring the billionaire CEO lying helpless on the dirt after his fall from the golden wheelchair. Yet, amidst this chaotic display of disgrace, Anna acts like a discordant but melodic note. She does not look toward the diamond's haunting glow. Her bare feet do not chase after the hollow prestige. Instead, Anna kneels beside Mr. K, her thin but warm hands gently steadying his shoulders, which are trembling with pain and humiliation. She bypasses the peak affluent sitting within her reach, only to ask the one question no one seems to have ever truly asked this man. Are you okay? Her gaze upon him is not for a tycoon, but for a hurting human being. In that moment, as Anna picks up the stone and places it back into Mr. K's hand without a second's hesitation, time stands still. Her purity silences the roar of greed, making the world's most magnificent diamond seem dull beside the heart of gold belonging to a girl from the streets. This was more than an act of kindness. It was a declaration of war against the curse of avarice that had haunted his lineage for generations. A single act of grace that shook an entire empire. Do you believe that kindness still exists in the darkest of places? Please, don't hesitate to leave a heart in the comments if you were moved by Anna's spirit. Hit that subscribe button now to join me as we witness the next turning point, when Anna steps through the gates of a dynasty riddled with traps and dark secrets. We truly cherish every follower who makes this journey more meaningful. Fasten your seatbelts, because the truth behind Mr. K's legs is about to leave you speechless. The heavy iron gates of the K Global estate slowly creak open, swallowing Anna's small silhouette into a world she never dared to dream of, right in the heart of an Atlanta filled with jagged contrasts. Her footsteps fall timidly upon the polished marble floors, her heart hammering as if to shatter against the overwhelming weight of power and peak affluence. The stench of waste is gone, replaced now by the scent of sandalwood, and a chilling, terrifying stillness, the atmosphere of a dynasty being suffocated by its own fortune. In the grand parlor, the members of the K lineage sit motionless, their faces sharp and calculating like chess pieces on a battlefield. They look at Anna with the eyes of traders inspecting a commodity, a final tool to salvage their decaying bloodline. A powerful woman, the family's matriarch, steps forward in a gown of mystical black silk, her voice low and commanding as she speaks of the fated contract. She tells her that the glory of the Kohinoor comes with a blood price, a dark curse that has caused the legs of every man in this family to wither the moment they reach the pinnacle of their careers. They do not need an aristocratic bride. They need a heart that has never known greed, a pure soul from the lowest depths to carry the weight of past sins. Anna feels the breath-catching pressure of their demands, their gazes piercing into her very core, as if to strip away her final shred of room freedom. Glancing at Mr. K, he remains there, solitary in his golden wheelchair, his eyes not on his kin but fixed on her, a look filled with desperate pleading yet haunted by inner torment. She realizes she isn't just signing a piece of paper, she is signing a sentence to liberate a man from the prison of destiny. The promises of wealth and protection for her family are merely sweet bait, concealing a more brutal truth about the life she must trade to break another's curse. Have you ever felt trapped between saving yourself or sacrificing everything for someone else? Anna's journey is a mirror reflecting the most painful choices a human can make. If you find yourself admiring this girl's courage, please leave a message of support for Anna in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and share this story with those you love, so we can spread this message of sacrifice and compassion together. We are immensely grateful for your presence through every dramatic frame of this tale. Stay strong, because deep in the shadows of this mansion, the echoes of Anna's late father are beginning to rise. Night falls over the K Global estate like a heavy black shroud, concealing the haunting corners that the brilliant crystal chandeliers of the day cannot reach. Anna lies there, amidst premium silk sheets, yet they feel as cold and heavy as invisible chains. The wind whistling through the crevices of the windows sounds like the whispers of forgotten souls, making it impossible for her to close her eyes. In the suffocating stillness of the room, Anna suddenly hears strange noises emanating from the end of the dark corridor, a rhythmic clinking of metal against metal, steady and patient like the hammer of a jeweler toiling away in a deep cellar. Memories of her silversmith father, who disappeared mysteriously when she was a child, suddenly rush back more powerfully than ever. She remembers the nights he stayed awake by the oil lamp, his thin hands meticulously carving rough stones into treasures, and his fearful warnings about a stone named the Red Sun. Every strike echoing in the dark night feels like a summons from the past, urging Anna to step out of bed and delve deeper into the dark secrets of Mr. K's lineage. She realizes that this curse does not only reside in the legs of the disabled man. It is rooted deep within an ancient crime buried by the dust of time. Those echoes are not hallucinations. They are the heart cry of a father trying to guide his poor daughter toward justice amidst a labyrinth of lies and power. Every buried secret has a way of rising when we least expect it. Do you believe in omens from loved ones who have passed away? Please share your own spiritual stories in the comments so we can feel this sacred connection together. If you are anxiously waiting to see what Anna will find behind those mysterious noises, hit the like button and subscribe right now to support her journey for the truth. We are so grateful for your enthusiasm. It is your interaction that helps this story spread even further. Now hold your breath, because Anna is about to reach for a door she was never supposed to open. Under the dim, flickering beam of her flashlight, Anna stepped into a dusty storage room hidden behind the massive library, a place where time seemed to have stood still for decades. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and rotting wood, tightening her chest with an indescribable sense of suspense. As her trembling hands pried open a tattered, leather-bound wooden chest, her breath suddenly froze. Beneath layers of tarnished velvet lay a stack of technical blueprints, meticulously drawn in India ink on yellowed parchment. They were the most complex diamond-cutting diagrams she had ever seen, but what made her heart nearly stop was a tiny symbol in the corner of each drawing. A wild flower enclosed in a triangle, the unique hallmark her father used to engrave on the tiny silver trinkets he made for her long ago. Fragmented childhood memories rushed back like a storm. The image of her father sitting at his workbench with a magnifying glass, his face radiant as he spoke of the brilliant polyhedral cut he had spent a lifetime researching. Anna hurriedly pulled out the close-up photograph of the Kohinoor diamond she had secretly kept. Under the flashlight, she realized the exquisite cuts and perfectly symmetrical facets of the legendary stone matched her father's hand-drawn sketches exactly. This was no coincidence. This stone, the pride of Mr. K's lineage, was the magnum opus of her missing father. A cold shiver ran down her spine as Anna spotted a handwritten note, her native tongue on the back of a blueprint. "This beauty is fed by blood and deception. Run if you ever find it." The truth began to unravel like a torn wound. That wealthy family did not just hold a treasure, they held her father's life and intellect captive. Anna felt a searing rage surge through her veins, the empathy she once felt for Mr. K suddenly shaken by a horrific suspicion. Was the man in that wheelchair, and this entire opulent gemstone kingdom, built upon a bitter betrayal of her family? Standing there among the ghosts of the past, she realized she was no longer a poor girl seeking to break a curse, but a daughter on the threshold of a bloody vendetta, concealed beneath the brilliant radiance of the Kohinoor diamond. This clue had changed everything, turning a budding love into an abyss of suspicion and pain. The humid Atlanta night hung heavy, yet inside the mansion, the air was as cold as a stone tomb. Anna slipped through the long, shadowy corridors, her bare feet moving silently across the polished hardwood floors. Her mind was a chaotic mess of resentment and fragmented memories of her late father. She headed toward the West Wing, where Mr. K had strictly forbidden anyone from entering after 10 o'clock at night. Through the ajar door, a sliver of sickly yellow light spilled out, accompanied by the strange sounds of heavy breathing and the dry clanking of metal. Anna held her breath, her heart pounding so hard it felt ready to burst from her chest as she peered inside. The sight before her caused her entire worldview to collapse. In a room equipped with modern exercise machines, Mr. K was no longer sitting in that magnificent golden wheelchair. He was standing there on his own 2 feet. The very legs that his family and the world believed had withered under the Kohinoor curse. Beads of sweat trickled down his muscular shoulders. His legs trembled but remained powerful as he took firm, decisive strides. There was no curse paralyzing him, nor any frailty requiring a poor girl to break a spell. The naked truth hit Anna like a slap to the face. It was all a perfect performance. He sat in that wheelchair to observe the world's greed, to hide from lurking enemies, and to deceive even her. Anna felt her chest tighten with the sting of betrayal, tears of frustration welling up. The garbage girl they treated as a pure soul turned out to be nothing more than a pawn in this calculating CEO's power game. As Mr. K turned, inadvertently revealing a long scar on his calf, Anna instinctively recoiled, causing the wooden door to emit a soft creak. In an instant, his sharp, piercing gaze shot toward the door, where she stood frozen in the darkness. Gone was the fragile facade that needed protection. His look was now fraught with danger and a profound underlying torment. This turning point didn't just strip away the last of her empathy for him. It thrust Anna into a breathless confrontation, where the line between victim and deceiver completely blurred under the dim lights of the secret room. She realized she wasn't living in a fairy tale of compassion, but was instead imprisoned in a cage of the most sophisticated lies. The air in the secret room was thick with the scent of sweat and betrayal as Mr. K stood motionless, his towering frame casting a long, predatory shadow across the floor. He didn't reach for his wheelchair. Instead, he walked toward Anna with a heavy, deliberate pace that felt like the tolling of a funeral bell. Anna backed into the cold stone wall, the ancient sketches of her father clutched to her chest like a shield. Her voice trembled, a mix of jagged pain and rising fury. "You can walk," she whispered, the realization cutting deeper than any blade. "Everything, the wedding, the curse, my life, it was all a lie." Mr. K stopped just inches away. His eyes, once soft with feigned vulnerability, now burned with a haunting, dark intensity. "The legs were a lie, Anna," he said, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. "But the debt is the only thing that has ever been real." He reached into the shadows of a mahogany desk and pulled out a worn leather-bound journal, tossing it at her feet. It was his father's confession. As Anna's eyes scanned the pages, the horrific truth unfurled like a poisonous vine. 20 years ago, her father hadn't just been a jeweler. He was the genius who unlocked the true brilliance of the Kohinoor. But the K family didn't want to pay a craftsman. They wanted to own a god. They had framed him for a crime he didn't commit, stripped him of his dignity, and left him to perish in the shadows of a debtor's prison while they built their empire on his stolen labor. "My father didn't just steal the diamond, Anna," Mr. K admitted, his face contorting with a mix of shame and resolve. "He stole your family's soul. He left your mother to beg and you to sift through the filth of the earth while we sat on golden thrones." He took a step closer, his shadow engulfing her. "I didn't bring you here to break a curse. I brought you here because I am the curse. I spent years pretending to be crippled, mimicking the paralysis my father's greed brought upon this house. I wanted to see if there was anyone left in this world who hadn't been corrupted by the glitter of this blood-soaked stone." He reached out, not to strike her, but to offer his hand, though Anna recoiled. "The blood debt isn't yours to pay, it's mine. I chose you because you are the rightful heir to every cent, every brick, and every facet of that diamond. My plan was never to save myself, Anna. It was to lure the vultures of my own family out into the open, to strip them of everything, and to hand the keys of this kingdom back to the daughter of the man we murdered." The twist was a double-edged sword that pierced Anna's heart. He wasn't just a villain, he was a self-inflicted martyr of his own father's sins. The peak affluence surrounding them suddenly felt like a tomb. Mr. K wasn't looking for a wife. He was looking for an executioner to end a cycle of generational trauma. "I am paying the debt in blood, Anna," he whispered, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying sincerity. "Whether you take my head or my heart, everything belongs to you now." Standing amidst the echoes of a 20-year-old betrayal, Anna realized the most horrific truth of all. The man she had started to love was the son of the man who had destroyed her world, and he had spent his entire life building a stage for her to finally take her revenge. The glitter of the Kohinoor on the pedestal nearby seemed to pulse with a sickly red light, the true color of the debt that was finally coming due. The heavy silence of the confession was shattered by a deafening explosion that rocked the very foundations of the mansion. The crystal chandeliers above swayed violently, casting jagged, frantic shadows across the walls. Outside, the screech of tires and the staccato rhythm of gunfire erupted, signaling that the vultures Mr. K had sought to lure out had finally arrived with a vengeance. The enemies weren't strangers. They were the greedy remnants of the K Global Board and corrupt relatives, desperate to seize the Kohinoor before Mr. K could hand it over to the girl from the streets. "They're here," Mr. K hissed, his eyes narrowing as the facade of the crippled billionaire evaporated completely. He grabbed a heavy iron fireplace poker, his stance wide and powerful, a warrior reborn from the ashes of his own lies. "Anna, stay behind me!" But Anna, fueled by a sudden, fierce protectiveness for the legacy her father had died for, didn't cower. She snatched a heavy bronze bust from a pedestal, her knuckles white with resolve. "I am not losing his work again," she spat, her voice echoing with the strength of her ancestors. The doors to the study burst open as 3 masked men, armed with silenced pistols, stormed in. The room became a whirlwind of desperate violence. Mr. K moved with a terrifying, fluid grace, his long, dormant muscles snapping into action as he swung the iron rod, disarming the first attacker with a bone-crunching strike. Despite the pain shooting through his legs, a physical reminder of his years of feigned paralysis, he fought like a man possessed by a need for redemption. Anna, showing the grit of someone who had survived the heartless streets, didn't hesitate when a second man lunged for the display case containing the Kohinoor. She swung the bronze bust with all her might, catching him square in the temple and sending him sprawling across the marble floor. In the heat of the fray, their eyes met, a moment of raw, unspoken synchronization. The betrayal and the lies were momentarily burned away by the adrenaline of survival. They weren't CEO and garbage girl anymore. They were 2 people standing against a tide of avarice, protecting the only thing that tied their tragic histories together. As more men flooded the hallway, Mr. K shoved the display case toward Anna. "Take it and run to the safe room," he bellowed, parrying a knife thrust from a third assailant. Anna gripped the cold glass case, the Kohinoor inside pulsing with a brilliance that seemed to mock the carnage around it. She looked at Mr. K, seeing him take a brutal blow to the shoulder to keep the gunman away from her. For a split second, the urge to flee with the fortune was there, but she realized that the man was now part of the debt she wanted to settle. She didn't run. Instead, she pushed the heavy mahogany desk to barricade the door, trapping them inside but buying them the seconds they needed. Amidst the smoke and the smell of gunpowder, they stood back to back, a fallen prince and a risen queen, defending a diamond that had caused so much misery, yet was now the only thing forcing them to fight for a future. The blood on the floor was fresh, but for the first time in 20 it wasn't being shed for greed. It was being shed for a chance at a new beginning. 9. Chuộc lỗi, sự tự do của đá quý, Mr. K trao trả viên đá. Cuộc đấu tranh nội tâm giữa trả thù và tha thứ, vô hạn vafting từ hate Việt thiên anh. The dust of the skirmish settled like a grey veil over the wreckage of the study, leaving a silence more deafening than the gunfire. Mr. K leaned heavily against the barricaded door, his breath coming in ragged gasps, blood trickling from a gash on his temple. The golden wheelchair lay overturned and twisted in the corner, a discarded relic of a lie that had finally reached its end. Slowly, he reached into the shattered glass of the display case and pulled out the Kohinoor. It sat in his palm, heavy and cold, reflecting the flickering emergency lights in 1,000 jagged shards of brilliance. Without a word, he took Anna's hand, the hand scarred by years of sifting through waste, and pressed the diamond into her palm. "It's over," he whispered, his voice thick with a weariness that spanned decades. "The debt, the lies, the blood, it all stops here. This is yours, Anna, not just the stone, but everything it bought. Take it and destroy me if you must. I am the final piece of your father's stolen life." Anna looked down at the diamond, the very object that had been the catalyst for her family's ruin. In its facets, she saw the ghost of her father's smile and the tears of her mother's poverty. Her fingers tightened around the cold stone, her heart a battlefield. Part of her wanted to scream, to use this wealth to watch the K lineage crumble to dust, to see Mr. K suffer the same isolation she had endured in the slums. The fire of revenge burned hot in her chest, whispering that justice required his total destruction. But then, she looked at him, not as a tycoon or a deceiver, but as a man who had spent his youth in a self-imposed prison of guilt, fighting his own blood to find her. She realized that holding on to the hatred would only make her the next captive of the Kohinoor's curse. If she chose revenge, she would be no different from the men who had betrayed her father. She looked at the diamond, then at the man bleeding before her, and felt the weight of the past finally begin to lift. "My father didn't create beauty so it could be used for hate," she said, her voice steadying. She didn't drop the stone, but she didn't strike him either. Instead, she reached out and wiped the blood from his brow. The struggle ended, not with a blow, but with a breath of forgiveness that broke the chains of 20 years. The Kohinoor was finally free from the darkness of greed, and for the first time, so were they. The dawn of a new day stretches across the outskirts of Atlanta, but this time, the sunlight is no longer choked by the suffocating haze of towering waste. Under the leadership of Anna, now the rightful owner of the K global empire, the vast landfill of her past is being transformed into a modern ecological and educational complex for the underprivileged. The Kohinoor diamond no longer sits in the glass case of an isolated mansion. It has been placed into a community trust, where the proceeds from its display are used to fund literacy and build futures for children in need. Mr. K stands beside Anna, his legs now walking firmly upon the lush green grass, not to flaunt power, but to help her nurture new life. The curse of avarice has vanished completely, not through magic, but through the power of sharing and boundless forgiveness. Poor jewelers, and those once pushed to the margins of society, now have a home where their talents can flourish without the fear of betrayal. As this story closes, we are left with a profound lesson. A person's true value does not lie in the fortunes they possess, but in what they are willing to give away. No matter how magnificent a diamond may be, it remains a cold, lifeless stone if it is built upon the suffering of others. Only when we dare to face the shadows of the past, using sincerity to wash away old sins and compassion as our guiding star, can the curse of poverty and hatred truly be broken. The ultimate fulfillment is not standing at the peak of wealth, but seeing the flowers of kindness bloom on the very ground once considered nothing but black mud. The story of Anna and Mr. K ends here, but it opens an eternal message. Let your heart lead the way, for it is the only treasure that never loses its value over time. Thank you for journeying with us through these 10 emotional chapters. Don't forget to leave your final thoughts and share this story to spread the brilliant light of compassion to everyone around you. Goodbye, and see you in the next miraculous journey.